I'm with Aofie Sexton, who is the Chief Privacy Officer at Trotter. Now, Trotter sounds really fascinating, so could you tell us a little bit about what the company is doing?
Yeah, so Trotter was established last year, 2018, by MasterCard and IBM, co-founded it. So we are a new company that has been set up to help companies do data anonymization and analytics. So what we do is that we take data, which is personal data, and we transform it to make it non-personal data, and then we do analytics on it. So in this era of GDPR, we're helping companies to innovate and derive insights from data, but we're doing so in a way that preserves privacy, that respects the consumer, and allows companies to demonstrate how they're being ethical and responsible with consumer data. So it's a new innovative company that is really at the forefront of innovation in the area of anonymization and utility, but also analytics.
Which I think is great. It really fits with that privacy by design.
Exactly.
And actually what people really want to see is happening with their data is exactly that.
Exactly. So for companies, what we say is, in fact, you don't need to be able to identify a person and still be able to derive insights. There is the ability to work with non-personal data. So we take data, we anonymize it, but we keep utility in there. And then we allow analytics to be performed on that data. And you can create wonderful insights and really innovate with data, but it's not personal data. So it's a way of really rethinking analytics and rethinking personal data.
Now, from what I've read, AI and the Internet of Things, they play a big part in the role of the company and what you're working on. So can you tell us a bit more about how that fits?
Yeah, so if you think about AI and you think about machine learning and IoT, what is at the heart and the common denominator for all of these companies is data. And in some instances, it's personal data. And I think even 1 year after GDPR, there is a crisis of confidence with regard to consumers and trust. And when you think about what is going to need to fuel AI and machine learning, it's data. So it's really important now that companies that want to embrace AI and machine learnings do so in an ethical and a responsible way. And one of the ways they can do that is by anonymizing the data so that you can no longer identify a person, no longer single out an individual. So you can still see data and trends, and you can still use to drive digital transformation in your companies and to embrace all these new technologies. But you're not doing so in a way that's going to erode privacy. You're doing so in an ethical way that will be able to demonstrate to consumers you are being responsible and you really have their best interests at heart in terms of how you're using the data.
A Chief Privacy Officer must be a fascinating role in this sense. Can you tell us a bit about how your role fits?
Yeah, so I, in fact, slightly circuitous route when I joined the company, because initially I was asked to sit on the board. So Trotter is based in Ireland, and one of the reasons we're based there is because in Ireland we have this concept of a trust structure. So Trotter is actually a trust by legal formation. And the reason it is so that we can act independently, both from our shareholders, because for us, independent anonymization is key. To be able to prove to the regulators that we can truly anonymize data, you have to be able to show that you can independently anonymize it. So I joined as one of the independent directors on the board. And it was through that I slowly but surely started to become more and more intrigued and interested by what the company was doing. And I'm somebody who's a passionate advocate for privacy, but I'm also a technology lawyer. And for me, this was the perfect intersection of tech and innovation, but also privacy preserving. So when the company was seeking its first chief privacy officer, I decided to actually join the company. So that's how I joined. And one of the main reasons that I joined was because privacy is at the heart of absolutely everything we do. If we don't have privacy at the center of our product, we don't have a product. So we really embed privacy by design and privacy by default into absolutely everything we do. So my role is actually very operational. I sit with the data scientists. I spend a lot of time with them because as they're looking at the data and how we anonymize it, I have to work hand in glove to make sure we truly anonymize the data. But I'm also looking at our engineers and our software engineers who are designing the platform and building our anonymization platform and making sure that we have built from the ground up privacy into everything we do. So it's a wonderful company to be involved in from that point of view, because privacy isn't off to the side. Privacy is absolutely smack bang in everything we do. So I love working in it from that point of view. And you know, hopefully what we're doing is moving the dial a bit in terms of privacy and privacy engineering and privacy enhancing technologies, and demonstrating to companies that it's not a zero-sum game. You can innovate with data and derive insights and, you know, drive digital transformation, but you can do so in a way that preserves privacy.
Now, if somebody's watching and they're thinking, privacy actually sounds really interesting, I didn't realize it could be that forward thinking, would you recommend this as a career path?
You know, I think that is a great question. So I lecture in privacy down at the Law Society in Ireland. So I get my hands early on law students and the next generation of solicitors. So the first thing I talk about is, when I lecture in data protection, is I really urge them to think about it as a career, because we're going to need the best and the brightest minds as we go forward. Because when you look at where the new technologies, the new emerging technologies are going, very exciting when you look at AI and you look at machine learning and IoT, but you're also can be worried about the fact that they are using so much personal data. And we need really good people working in companies, both from a legal point of view, but also privacy engineering point of view, to really, they're going to need to be there to solve some of these big issues. And, you know, ethics is going to be incredibly important as well. So when I speak to them, I say, look, this is going to be fascinating for the next 20, 30 years, working in technology, but working as a privacy lawyer, a privacy engineer. These are going to be the cutting edge careers of the future. So it's not just thinking about data protection from a point of view of compliance and filling out your forms. It's when you look at it and you look at the societal impact of privacy and these new pervasive technologies that are going to touch every aspect of our lives. And if we don't get it right, we're heading towards sort of surveillance society, etc. So we really need people who are extremely thoughtful, very literate in privacy. And it really, you know, for those of us who work in privacy now, there's a real sense of purpose to what we do. And it's a very exciting opportunity. I've had sort of 3 chapters in my career, starting with competition law and technology law and now privacy. And I think privacy is by far the most interesting one, because it's so dynamic. It changes every day. And as long as you're willing to keep learning and you're open to learning and you're curious, I think privacy is a fantastic career.
Brilliant. Well, if somebody wanted to find out more or get in touch with you or the company, how would they go about doing that? So
Trotter we have a website, and on the website you can learn an awful lot about us. We obviously attend conferences. I was here today on a panel just talking about what we do, but we would love to talk to any company that is really looking at they have a lot of data, they want to innovate with that data, but they may be unsure how to do so, both in terms of GDPR compliance, but also in terms of the responsible and ethical use of data. The other fantastic thing is, once you've anonymized data you can then use it for things like longitudinal studies. So things like data retention don't apply anymore. You don't have to rely on consent and the management of consent, etc. So anonymizing data has a huge upside as well for companies that want to innovate, want to monetize their data, want to innovate with their data, but want to do so in a responsible way.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for talking to us this morning.
Thank you very much.